If you belong to any online sobriety group, then you're going to have seen people celebrating how many days alcohol free they've been. Whether it's 7 days, 10 days, 50, 100 or 1,000, no matter what, people like to celebrate the length of time they've been alcohol free. And I totally get that. In my first year of sobriety, I was looking at my day counter all the time. Right at the beginning, there were some days I was almost willing the next day to come along so that I would move from day 3 to day 4 to day 5. They couldn't come fast enough. But the question is it beneficial to count the days when you stop drinking? Now, in my experience and the experience of many people that I've worked with, counting the days can be incredibly beneficial. It's really motivating when you get those milestones pop up on your phone if you're using one of the sobriety counter apps, especially when you hit a really big one and you can share it in a Facebook group and feel that sense of reward and achievement when people congratulate you on what you've accomplished. But the reality is, counting the days isn't for everybody. And you've got to give it a try for yourself. It's absolutely a tool that can be extremely beneficial. But as I say, it doesn't work for everybody. Now, there are a wealth of sober counter apps. If you're a member of my online program, there's a day counter app that you can use right there in the program. And my next favourite after that is an app called I Am Sober. You can see that on the screen right now. It's an excellent app and it pops up with milestones, motivational quotes, and it can just give you a heads up or a reminder at any time that you want it to. Lots of these apps have other built-in tools that can be extremely beneficial when we stop drinking. So my advice is to check them out, explore them, and then to experiment with them to find out if they work for you or not. Now remember, when you stop drinking, your sobriety date gives you a second birthday. You become just like the Queen of England. You're entitled and should expect extra cards and extra gifts on your sobriety date. So make sure that that absolutely happens. And remember what your sobriety date is. If you don't want to use an app to count the days, make sure you make a note of the date that you had your last drink. That's your sobriety date. And it's important that you remember that, because even if right now you're not fussed about counting the days, there's sure to be a time when you'll want to remind yourself how long you've been alcohol free. Or maybe just to remind yourself that you should expect a card or a gift from a loved one because you've accomplished something amazing. Now, the downside of counting the days can be when we have a setback, when you feel like you've got to return to day one. Now, the good news is you don't have to return to day one. If you've been alcohol free for 50 days and you experience a setback, well, you're on 50 days minus 1. You don't have to go back to 0. So don't think that there's a hard and fast rule around that. And for other people, counting the days can make the days go slower. They feel that they're focusing too much, which is exactly what I did on counting those days and paying too much attention to them. As I say, it's best to experiment with it. There are tons of different apps out there. There's tons of different ways of counting the days. You could just mark it in your journal if you're keeping a journal on a daily basis and logging down exactly what's happening in your own experience. You could just write it on the page what day it is. You could make a note of it every so often. It doesn't have to be an enormous focus. The reason I chose to talk about this topic is because I saw a post from somebody in one of my communities and she was 504 days alcohol free and she had forgotten to celebrate the 500-day anniversary of her sobriety. And this is what happens. During the first few months of sobriety, we're very focused on how long we've been alcohol free. We open that app on a daily basis. Now, I'm at almost 4 years sober and I can't remember the last time I opened the app. Periodically, I'll look on there. If there's a big milestone coming up, maybe. But these days, I probably open the app once every 2 or 3 months. So know that as time passes, you won't rely on that app so much. You won't feel as compelled to look at it. And that's what happens in almost every experience. It can be an amazing tool when we set out, and then as we go further down the line, it tends to serve as a reminder of the anniversary of our sobriety. And to be honest, that's about it, and that's about all I use it for. Or if somebody asks me how long I've been sober, it gives me a quick reference point to look at. Counting the days is going to help you if you feel like you need that extra bit of motivation that looking at the days you've been alcohol free gives you. And it gives you a great way of getting social support and encouragement when you choose to share how long you've been alcohol free. And the downside of counting the days can be when you have a setback and you decide to yourself that you've gone back to day zero, you might as well just go for it and start drinking again, because all of that time, all of that work that you've put in has gone. So bear that in mind. And remember, you don't have to go back to day zero or day one. You can just make a note that you had a setback, but you've still got all of that work, all of that experience of the alcohol-free period that you had behind you. And just to mention, I believe that counting the days can be counterintuitive when somebody forces you to do it. It has to be your own decision. So I want you to look at whether this is something that's right for you. If somebody's telling you you need to count the days, chances are you're going to end up resenting it. Nobody likes being told what to do. And I'm absolutely not going to tell you what to do. I want it to be your decision and your choice. I just want to share the facts about it. And right next to me is a video that shares a bunch of other tools that you can use to help you navigate that first year of living alcohol free. Just click on the video, you can watch it straight away. And until next time, I'll see you again very, very soon.